specialize in music most people hate. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, Instagram, and our website. Let us share the boys with you.
Yo, this is John from Noise Dosage Media, and this episode is brought to you by Begrudgingly Benny. Interested in putting something horrific and grotesque on your next piece of merch? Benny is tucked away in the fiery depths of COVID quarantine, blasting the filthiest of old school death metal and drawing hideous creatures that he is waiting for you to adopt. Go over to Instagram and follow @BegrudginglyBenny and contact him if you would like some really weird original art for your band or label. Super professional, highly recommended. So here's my first question, John. First off, welcome. Incantation's freaking badass, and I'm like super proud that you're finally on this podcast. So hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here. Definitely really cool. I appreciate it. It's been a whirlwind of, press and stuff since the new song hit, and it just really pumped,
Right. Yeah, exactly. So here's my first question to you. When it comes down to songwriting, what are some like necessities when it comes down to like the final mix and master? What do you want to hear?
Yeah. I guess the most important thing is I want to hear the kind of the soul of the music. I want the feeling of the music to come through in the mix, because that's not as easy as it once was back in the day when things were all done analog. It was a little, you got down to actual performance. There was less studio trickery at that time. So now, with the way things are just done digitally and everything, sometimes, when you get a mix back or you get something back, first of all, you don't even know what really happened to it. And second of all, sometimes you lose it. Sometimes it sounds too mechanical or too fake. And for me, I look at it like, death metal should have that vibe of almost like a rock and roll vibe or old heavy metal vibe, where part of what makes it great is that feeling of the performance and just the real feel of the, all the instruments and the jam and the imperfections that are there. I mean, yeah, of course you want to play the stuff as best as possible, and you want to fix up mess ups and whatever. But at the same time, you don't want to over sterilize everything. That's makes music almost not music.
Right. No, I'm in the same boat. I went to a studio and it was very mechanical, and now I'm kind of like, I kind of don't want to mess with it like that anymore. Like I just want it raw.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, just at a certain point, I started noticing it. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, so I started noticing it in the later 90s, where a lot of bands were really, like a lot of drummers were really depending on like stuff like Beat Detective and stuff while they were playing, and they were taking these really subpar takes and just fixing them up to sound great. And then you'd watch them live, and it wouldn't even sound like the same band. And to me, that's just lame, because, if I hear something on album, I want to be able to watch the band live and hear them perform it in a, it doesn't have to be exact way. I don't expect that, but I do expect a comparable version of it, something that's close to it. I don't want to, hear kick drums that are as tight as the Pete Sandoval, but then when you, hear it live, it's popcorn feed or something, that's just, it's almost better just to leave the, either practice more or leave the real feel in and just get that sincerity in the playing, because sometimes, sometimes like the imperfections are part of what makes a song good too. I mean, everybody plays things a little different, and there's different, like, I look at it a guitar way, everybody plays guitar a little bit different. If you take everything and you just totally match it up 100% to a grid, you're not going to get the same kind of feeling. You're stripping your own feeling out of guitar. Sometimes that slight behind a beat or slide ahead of the beat isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just, but now with digital, you can look at it, you could see it on the screen. You're like, holy shit, am I way off? But you listen back to it, and you're like, huh, it sounds fine. So
it sounds good.
It's like, just go with it. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, some of the best, rock and metal albums in the world, really, most of the best music in the world was done.
It was raw
when people had to actually play it. I mean, look at Jimi Hendrix, for an example. I mean, when you listen to, his stuff, it was really sloppy, but it just had an amazing, so much personality and so much originality. And it'd be terrible to take if he was doing it now and took away all the personality in his playing, and all you heard was exactly what,
just right on beat.
Yeah, it would sound terrible. Actually, that's what made the songs great. That's what, I think, for me, that's so important to be able to have a real feel on the album. So that's what I look for in the mix. If it sounds mechanical, if it sounds, fake, it turns me off totally. I have to tell, because we have Dan Swano do the mixing for it, and he knows us by now that we don't what we want. So it's not like we don't really get too many surprises as far as when we get it back, as far as things being over digitized or anything like that. He knows it. Because he's an old school guy like myself, so he knows what we're looking for, what we're all about. Sometimes we would have problems when we work with, say, newer people in the studio. Sometimes they get over obsessed with the technology of it, and since everything could be fixable, doesn't mean everything should be fixable. Should be fixed, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I was talking to Michael Borders from Massacre, and he said to me, he goes, yeah, man, I'll tell the guys right off the bat, if I don't do it in one take, I want to do it again. He said to me, he goes, if I gotta freaking hear it and think, damn, dude, I had to take 3 takes on that, we're not releasing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It's kind of funny. I'm not good enough a guitar player to definitely take everything on the first take, but I like the concept behind that, because it's true though. If you have to over analyze it, or if you just have to overdo it, sometimes you ruin it because you lose the vibe. I know for myself, even when I start, really trying to nail things, get things super tight, it's not that it's, I want to play it tight, but at the same time, it's like I start losing some of the personality in it, and I'm just like, crap, I should just go back to this later, maybe practice it up.
Well, the thing is, I feel like death metal bands, if you do that a lot, you'll sound like a freaking tech death band,
a lot of, and if, for an old school death metal band, it just doesn't sound right. I mean, I understand if you're doing, I don't know, a Dillinger Escape Plan or something like that. I understand where you want everything to be tight as nails everywhere. But, I still, say the era that I grew up in death metal, there's still, a lot of air in the music. It wasn't supposed to be just processed, like I said, tight as nails. I mean, almost every album that I like, from the early days, was all done with people actually really playing it. Even the death metal ones. I mean, back, very few albums in the late 80s, early 90s had that much digital aspect to it, because it wasn't really a thing except for super big studios. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until I would say the mid 90s it started coming in, and I hated it. Totally hated digital when it first came out because it sounded digital. But luckily now, technology's gotten so good where it doesn't have that ridiculous, I don't know, just that fake sound to it. I mean, it could, but the quality of recording is, just gotten a lot better and stuff. A lot of people had the same problem I have. I hear, these clicky, weird kick drum sounds that sounded, I don't know what it, it just sounded weird to me. Sometimes it sounded like, people were hitting a typewriter or something like that on the kick drum too. It just it didn't sound, to me, it didn't sound like a kick drum,
Right. Well, I tried digital. I bought an Axe Effects.
Yeah.
I have an Angle Fireball 100 watt, and I bought Axe Effects, and I'm like, fuck, dude, instant regret, instant. It just sounded like a freaking Line 6.
Yeah.
So running off that topic, I noticed in a YouTube video that you were running an EVH 5153 and 2 Marshalls. Is that like your current rig, or what do you got?
No, actually, the rig that I use most of the time is I have a Revolt amp, which is actually kind of based around the 5150 type sound. And 5150 is what I usually use on tours when I can't bring my own, Revolt Barbarian amp with me, because I can't bring it like to Europe, or even sometimes in the States. It isn't feasible if I have to like fly somewhere. So then I would usually use a 5150, and I prefer the older 5150s, but any 5150, I seem like I can get a pretty good tone out of.
You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, it just seems like it was funny because my friend from Aggression told me that it's so great the 5150 because you just turn it on and whatever setting it is, it just sounds good. And I'm like, I never thought about it, but yeah, I guess it sounds good almost no matter where you put the knobs. So.
Yeah. Well, I got screwed over when I bought a solid block. I don't know if the tubes went or what happened, but it was super noisy, and I freaking sold it, and I regret that too. But my angle will do.
Yeah, so. But as far as cabinet goes, the cabinets that I use, when I'm, for myself or whatever, is the Power by Omega cabinets. I don't know if you've tried any of those yet, but I mean, those
it's called Power by Omega.
Yeah, they're a company out of Michigan. They've been.
I've heard of Omega.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not Powered. It's built by Omega. Is the actual name of the company, but it's Omega Cabinets. Yeah. But yeah, it's. I used those cabinets one year when we played the New England Hardcore Metal Fest. They were a sponsor of the show. And the guy was like, because we had our gear with us, he's like, nah, just try the cabinet. I promise you it's going to be good, And I was like, fuck it. Okay, it's better than having to carry my gear, So I tried using it, and I was just like, man, it sounds so freaking good on stage. I just loved it because I was able to handle some of the low end that I have on my guitar that sometimes just doesn't quite, come through. My old setup, which I used to have it was an old Marshall. Actually, the cabinet was one of those older. I don't know what cabinets they were, like the
vintagers, I'm guessing.
Like the smaller cabinets, but they still had the 12-inch speakers in it. And I bought the smaller cabinet just because it's easier to carry around with me on tour.
Dude, I have a 2x12 at EVH. That's it. That's all I need.
Yeah, so I used to have that, and I've had in the old vintage 60s in there, and it sounded really good. But for some reason, when I just noticed a substantial difference when I use those Omega cabs, and since then I've been kind of hooked on them, and I try to use them when I can. I mean, if I can't, it's fine. I just use a regular Marshall cab. Usually sounds good wherever, but if I get the chance, I just feel like I get a little bit more of the monstrous tone that I'm looking for when I get to use my Revolt amp and my Omega cabinet. Just to me, it just feels comfortable, feels at home. I guess how it is when you have a certain setup that you like.
Yeah,
it's like even though you
son of a bitch, that ain't good enough.
Yeah, I learned to get by with any gear because we've traveled all over the world, and sometimes, no matter how hard you try to emphasize what gear you want, you end up with, whatever they have, and nothing's going to change. So, I've learned to make do with what I have when I have to, but it's just so nice to be able to get back on my own rig and use that, because like I said, it just feels at home,
Right. Yeah. The thing with Omega is like, I think, are they just online? Because like I've tried to look at one of those, but I can never find them at stores.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think you might be right. I don't think they have like actual distribution through stores, but yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I just they happened to be at the fest that I was at, and I tried it, and as far as I'm concerned, they've done a really great job helping me out with everything. I mean, they just helped me, design the thing properly, to the way I wanted to, even just like the look and everything. And then also, like the last tour we played in Detroit, the owner of the company, Mike Smith, came to the show and actually, checked my cabinets over, gave it like a little tune up just to make sure everything was, running
Up to
perfect or
par.
whatever, which
Yep.
I just thought was really nice that he took the time out to, make sure that everything was cool and just to kind of say what's up and stuff. So that's always nice to have that personable,
Yeah.
you know, vibe
Yeah, it's
about
not
it.
like you just go to Guitar Center and buy a freaking cab. They actually care about you.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Guitar Center, it's just more about they want to
Guitar
make the
Center.
most amount of money possible off your sale.
Yeah, I hate it. I've been doing Sweetwater recently. I used to be anti-online, but I don't know. It's
Yeah,
cheaper.
yeah. No,
So
I actually go with Sweetwater sometimes too. I prefer that. It just sucks. 'Cause even on tour, the last tour, I it sucked. I left my wireless and a couple of things at one of the venues and had to get it sent, and it wasn't going to come for a while. And I figured I'd go to Guitar Center and pick up some new stuff to use. And I mean, they
get
didn't have.
ripped off.
They spent well. It was too expensive, but they didn't even have hardly anything I wanted. I mean, simple things they didn't even have. I was just like, what the
Right.
hell, I mean, they and the stuff they did have, yeah, it was just so expensive, it just was ridiculous. Yeah, I'm not too excited, but I
Over
mean,
it. It's like
it's
the
good.
Walmart.
Yeah, but I kind of do it, when I'm on tour if I have no choice, because at least they used to have a lot of stuff there, but I don't know, for some reason, last couple of times I went, they have nothing that I need. I go there, I'm just like, what I got to settle on is paying too much for something I don't really want, but I need something because whatever, it's an emergency usually.
Right. Yeah, every time I go there, there's always a salesman that's like, hey, they like walk up to this poor little kid. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
this Squire, it's the best guitar you could find. It's $250. I'm like, kid, do not buy that. So,
Yeah, I know. I actually get kind of annoyed because I usually know what I'm looking for, and I hate having people that don't really know what they're talking about talk to me about everything. I'm just like, come on, just let me find the stuff I want and let me get out of here.
right. So here's a pretty good question for you. So how does personality play a big role in the growth of a project?
Personality, music wise, or personality,
No, in
personal
the
wise.
band, like
Oh,
having multiple people in a band.
yeah. Well, I mean, the more people you have in the band, the more you open yourself up for drama. That's the first thing.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how bands like Leonard Skinner and bands that have like 6, 8 people in the band or 10. I couldn't imagine the drama there, because it's tough enough sometimes, with a 4-piece band like us. But yeah, I mean, drama and personality stuff like that, it definitely has a big impact on everything, because if there's negativity or just people that yeah, it's mostly negativity, I guess, or just like weird ego things and stuff like that. Those are always the things that really screw things up
Yeah.
in a creative way, because I, I've noticed, at least for Incantation, the more open that everybody is as far as ideas by everybody, the better things get. And it's like when you work with people that don't want to, don't want to, I don't want to say compromise, but be open to other decisions and be honest about them if they're good or bad, that's a problem, because, I have worked with people in the past that, they present something and then they, if you try to suggest maybe doing the same thing, but a slight alteration of it, they take it as it's a personal attack against them. And, those kind of situations make it really difficult to, be in a band together and create, because it's kind of like supposed to be a mixture of everybody's feeling and personality and songwriting into one thing. And, not that if you have to compromise so much, I understand, okay, maybe the band's not right for you, but, minor things like if I come up with a riff and then somebody says, oh, why don't you try it like this? I'm 100% open to it, because it's like, okay, let's try it, and I'll give an honest view. And honestly, most of the time they're right, because they might hear something I don't hear. And I try to listen to it in a way where I'm not going to automatically, dismiss it because it wasn't right. But some people are like that, or some people, are drama queens about everything. And or don't want to be at practice or want to
take the weekend off, go to the bar.
And it's like, it's understandable, but just be honest about stuff, or just don't be annoyed if progress moves ahead if you're not around, for whatever reason. It's not so it's that kind of stuff is always a problem. That's one of the probably the biggest problems I've had working with people over the years. Recently, it's less of a problem, but early on in the band, it was definitely more of a problem, because we were doing stuff at a time when sometimes our style of death metal wasn't so popular. Death metal, our style, we started off in the late 80s, really early 90s, I guess. And, it was popular for a few years, but then like other styles like black metal and symphonic metal and all this different stuff started becoming a little more popular than death metal. And it was harder to, find people that wanted to do the same kind of thing as it. And it makes for it makes things kind of weird, because, you're looking for a lineup, but you want people to realize, okay, but we have to keep it in this, older school way. We're not going to try to be just like whatever the cool new thing is out there, because for, what we are as a band is, you have to want to do old school style death metal. It's not it's not like we're closed-minded, but it's like, you have to kind of want to do something similar what we're doing, and they get into the band, because some people just get in the band because they want to be in a band that's well known, but then when it comes to writing, they're worried that they're not going to be, keeping up. I don't know, we'll just say Nile for Existence or something, and it's like, a band can't just sit around and worry about, am I going to keep up with this band or that band? It's like the band has to worry about,
what they want to do.
What we want to do as a band, like whatever. And that's not a slag against Nile or any other band. It's not, do what you want to do and it's great, but that doesn't make it what we do. And we shouldn't compare ourselves to other bands. But, a lot of people, in the lineups in the past, especially like in the 90s, was really comparing us to other things, when what they really should have been just doing is just focusing on who we are and not what's going on around them. So, all those, personality problems, or maybe that would be more of a insecurity problem or something like that, luckily,
right.
Kyle and myself, Kyle's a drummer, and myself, we are pretty stubborn in general as far as style goes. We're open as far as writing, but as far as keeping the style, in the same vein, we're both really stubborn about it. That's part of the reason why we've been able to work together for so long in a positive way.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Like I've realized like that's one of the biggest topics that aren't really talked about. Like just dealing with the people that you work with. Like people like surpass that. And that's like major.
Well, people forget, or not that they forget, people don't understand, because from the outside, a band, it looks like everything's always great. That's why I've learned. I mean, some of the bands that I love, like I grew up with, like Black Sabbath or something. It's like people say, oh, they shouldn't have done this or had this person, that person in and out or whatever. But it's like nobody really knows. Like,
Yeah, you don't know
maybe
who is in the band.
you don't know who these people really are. You know your interpretation of them, and you know what they show you, but you don't know what they really are. And maybe this person's like a terrible person to be around all the time,
Yeah,
or just
no.
maybe he's it's a bad vibe or something.
Yep. Yeah, I always hate that, man. People are like, we had to get rid of X, Y, and Z. They're like, oh, he was such a good guy. What the hell? And then they
Yeah.
hate the band. It's
Yeah.
like,
And they don't even really know the guy. And, they don't understand the dynamic of the situation. I mean, and it could even be that the guy's totally cool, but when he gets to practice, he wants to be a stubborn bastard about everything, and you can't work with him. I mean, or he might be really cool to hang out with after the show, but the rest of the time on tour, he's angry or grumpy to everybody else around him. There's all these different things that people don't really put into consideration. It's like but when you're in a band and you're touring and you're dealing with this,
yeah, it's like a
these,
family,
yeah,
like you're always with them.
yeah, and
So,
you want to be able to, you want to be able to feel like these people that you're with are, part of your team, and they're going to be with you forever. And I even thought that early on in the band too. I was like, once we finally got a lineup for our first time, I was like, man, it's going to be great. These guys are good. We're going to really step up to the plate. We're going to work together. It's going to be great. And almost immediately we fell apart.
yeah.
I realized,
exactly.
that, it's like, yeah, I could want all that great, nice stuff all I want, but the reality
What
of
is
it
it
is,
going to happen? Yeah.
yeah, because I can't control the way other people are, and I can't make everyone think the same way I do.
Yep. So here's another question for you. What are some elements that make for a good, like a perfect metal show?
Well,
And are there any examples that you have?
first, I think a lot of important things that make a metal show good is just first, obviously, the quality of the bands. Like a lot of tours sometimes have like either a really good headliner or maybe a good headliner direct support, and then a lot of other bands that might not be so good or whatnot. And I actually, it's like, I think the whole show should be strong, even if it doesn't matter if the band's popular or not necessarily. But I just think you want to see a new band play live, and you want to see them kick your ass. Like,
Right.
I just don't like it when I go to shows and there's just like, I don't want to be mean, but kind of like sucker opener bands that aren't that good, but maybe they just got on for, because who they know, or they paid money or something like that. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
it's better to have quality on the show. I can say, for an example, what we did the last tour, on the Sickness tour we did with Morbid Angel, Watain, and us, it was like,
Oh man,
yeah,
Watain.
yeah,
Fuck, dude, I haven't seen them yet.
they were amazing, and the whole bill, it was great because it was a strong bill. Um, you know, we were the first band. Watain was the second band. Morbid was the closer, and it was great. I mean, yeah, we had to take a shorter slot than we normally would, but we decided that we would do it because it's going to be a killer tour, and it worked out great because people got to the show early. They watched three bands is totally kicking ass live, and that's, to me, that's what really makes for a good show. Like,
Right,
just
just
know,
short, sweet, to the point.
yeah,
There's so many. There's so many shows that happen like nowadays around here. It's like there's like 6 bands.
yeah, and it's really difficult too when you have 6 bands, like for say like a local show or something like that too. It's like it's tough because a lot of the local bands are inexperienced and they take a long time to set up, and they're just, a lot of times it'll be 6 bands that all sound very similar to each other or something, and it's just like, it's not a good vibe. I mean, there should be, there doesn't have to be totally, different bands, but different enough where it makes the show interesting. You don't want to see, three bands that just sound like Morbid Angel on the Morbid Angel tour. I mean, why bother? You want to see three different style of bands that are all quality, and all aggressive, but
Right.
it's a
I feel like when there's that type of vibe where it's all kind of in the same realm, it becomes like this weird competition.
Yeah, it does sometimes. Yeah. Or you just, or just when, as for the person watching it, you just get burned out. I mean, there was a big problem we had in the like later 90s, early 2000s where there were a lot of shows we were playing. All the openers were like these kind of a porno gore grind type bands that were really popular in the death metal genre at that time. And it was just, it started to like lose it because you'd watch 3-4 opening bands that sounded really close to each other. And it started to turn into white noise. Even if the band was good towards the end or anywhere in the set, it almost got lost because there was just so much of the same stuff. Like the fundamentals of the music were just too close, where it would have been a lot better to have a little bit of a diversity there. So at least, there's something different. I mean, why do you want a band just to end and then you just watch another band do the same kind of stuff? It's like, well, that's not, just keep the other band on,
So, yeah, I mean, off of that, after being a part of Incantation for quite some time, are there any bands that you haven't had a chance to like tour with or like?
Yeah, I mean, there's bands that we've wanted to tour with that we haven't. I mean, we haven't. Yeah, we've played shows. We never toured with like Deicide, which would be cool to do. We haven't. A band I really want to tour with actually is At the Gates. I'd really like to tour with.
Nice. Nice. They just came to Rochester. I freaking missed them though. I am like. You know that feeling where like a show comes into town and you're like, they'll come back again. I don't think they're coming back. And right 2 days after I like got into them hard, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, they're really a great band, and I've known Thomas, the vocalist, for quite some time. We used to be pen pals back in the late '80s, early '90s. So it's like we just have a good friendship too. So it would just be really fun to be able to tour with them. And the thing I like about them is that they're a different style of death metal than us. So it'd be another interesting package, but it'd be two what I would consider good bands in their genre, but different sounding bands, which I think, like I just mentioned before, it makes for a good bill. So they're definitely a band I'd like to, tour with. I'm hoping sometime in the future that could happen. But
shows need to happen.
Yeah, something. Yeah, at this point, any shows need to happen.
I just went to a show this weekend. I'm not even joking yet. In
That's
Rochester,
awesome.
it was very, it was a pain in the ass. It was 25% capacity.
Yeah.
2 chairs were like zip tied together. Everything was like 6 feet. I'm a photographer. They won't let me do photography. But
that's a bummer. Yeah. I mean, with that kind of stuff, yeah, obviously it's a new area that, none of us have ever had to deal with this kind of stuff before. So yeah, it's definitely going to be awkward, but I think, I'm hoping that there's a certain point where, maybe if just minor precautions, like people, either wearing face masks or something, can at least make it so they don't have to, social distance through the whole show, because that just kind of, sucks the vibe right out of the room.
Yeah, no, it was weird, man. Like sitting in a chair, like listening to some heavy fucking music. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I try to let people know that, dealing with the, coronavirus stuff, it sucks to have these restrictions and stuff like that. But I mean, we should really think about trying to do whatever we could to try to be part of getting this over with, because it totally sucks for the music industry to have these kind of problems. Because I mean, even doing webcam, like live streams of playing and stuff like that. I mean, all that stuff is just never going to be the same as far as going to a show and having a nice good crowd really getting into it. Yeah, just the
getting
feeling
drunk and just running into people,
just having a fun time. That's part of the metal experience.
Right. Now, so here's kind of my last question here, and then I don't know, you could talk about what's going on. So, in the very beginning of Incantation, what was your main goal?
Well, it was kind of just like we just wanted to do what we wanted to do. I was playing in a band, Revenant, at the time, which was it was an aggressive band. It was a thrash band. It was kind of borderline on death metal-ish, but this was a really long time ago. This was back in like the late 80s, like 88, 89 is when I left them, and they wanted to just go in more of a kind of refined technical way, and I just was really getting into the style, like the more aggressive styles of early death metal at that time, and I just really wanted to push the limits. So I kind of just decided to leave them and start Incantation with the kind of the concept of screw everybody. We just want to do our thing our way, push the limits of death metal as far as we could, try to be the heaviest, the darkest, the just most aggressive band that we possibly could. It was just, but it was like we wanted to do it in a very personal way, where it was like you're really feeling what we feel inside with our music. It wasn't just about say
just
being
heavy riffs.
Yeah, it wasn't just heavy riffs or just being technically proficient. It was really trying to get that vibe in there. I mean, honestly, I would say even our kind of our attitude was almost like a punk rock type attitude to a certain extent, where it was just like, screw everybody. We're just going to try to, gross you out with our music more than, try to be accepted. Because at that time when we were starting, the scene was slowly building, but there was still kind of like death metal trends kind of happening, where a lot of bands, because like Obituary's Slowly Rock came out around that time, and Morbid Angel's Altar was a Madness, and the first 2 Death albums were out. Maybe the first 3 were out. So people were already starting to
hop on the train.
Hop on the train with that kind of stuff. And we were like the kind of the anti-band, where we're just like, no, even though we liked that stuff, we thought it was good, we wanted to be the assholes that when we played live, people knew that we were different. They might hate us, and we were okay with that, but we wanted to, stand out as being us. We didn't want to stand out as being, a Death clone band, or, a Morbid Angel 2 or Terrorizer 2 or whatever band, at that time.
Sure.
So, it was just about being ourselves and just being assholes and just saying, fuck everybody. But I think that's a good thing for music, especially for young musicians, to kind of just say screw it and just express yourself the way you want to musically. Don't follow the rules, because when you follow the rules, a lot of times that's takes away a lot of the the personality in the music. And the reason why I think a lot of bands do well is because they have some sort of originality, some personality that's them. Like people could, there's lots of bands now that try to mimic our sound, especially back in the day. They try to mimic our sound from our albums back in the day. But the thing is that, people can never imitate who I am as a person or who we were at the time or us writing it. Though that's something that is distinctively us and that we keep with us, basically until we die or something. So it's
Yeah.
and that's always a good thing for all bands to do, is to make something distinctively yours. It doesn't have to be super original or anything, but just make it so that, okay, when you hear it, oh fuck, okay, I know what that is. That's this band or that band. Like, I think people could listen to any of our stuff and tell pretty closely, if they know of our band, they could pretty much tell what Incantation is when they hear it. They don't need to think about, oh well, this might be this band, and that's totally
That's what
great
that's
accomplishment.
what the goal was.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. So
Yeah.
fuck yeah. All right, so give me the rundown of what's going on now. What have you been up to?
Well, I mean, over the last year or so, we've been, touring like crazy. I mean, we've we did Europe early last year. We did the Devastation of the Nation tour, which was amazing. Then we did some Australian dates. I think we went even back to Europe again, and then we did that Sickness tour with Watain and Morbid Angel. And that tour, we weren't even really supposed to do it, that tour. But when that tour opportunity came up, it was like too good to pass up,
Yeah.
So we're just like,
no
okay, we'll definitely do this, But between all that touring, we were actually putting the finishing touches on our new album, the Sect of Vile Divinity. And we were able to finish that soon after we got back from the Morbid tour. We actually had most of it done before we did that tour, but we just had a couple finishing touches we need to do. So basically we finished that up, and then we were trying to get all the layout and all that stuff done. And once we finally kind of got everything rolling and thought we were going to have a release date in early summer, the whole pandemic broke out and everything got kind of put on hold for a little bit. But luckily, Relapse, decided that, that August would be a good release date for the album. So we went with that. But yeah, during the time though, we've been, I actually just made a move recently to North Carolina from Pennsylvania over the last year. So I finally had time on my hands to actually go through stuff and unpack stuff. And then also I've just been working a lot on either going through archive stuff of ours, because I have so many old flyers and just old, recordings and stuff like that we did. It was nice to go through. And then in the last month or two, we've been doing just a massive amount of writing as a band. Just been super inspired to just write.
Have the time off.
Yeah, it happened naturally. But one thing that happened too that I forgot to mention is after the Morbid tour, our guitar player Sonny left the band. He was playing with us who played with us on Profane Nexus, and also did some of the guitars on the Dirge of Elysium album, which was the one right before it. And he actually quit the band because he wanted to do more guitar shred kind of stuff. And but it worked out fine for us because our touring bass player, because our normal bass player Chuck that's in the band, he can't always tour because of his job. So we have Luke fill in with it for him on bass, and he's a guitar player, and he's an amazing guitar player. So he was able to come kind of right in, and it just worked out great. Because we actually
it's usually the opposite.
I know. But it worked out great because we've been working with Luke on and off for 5 years. So we had we were totally already comfortable with him. It wasn't like we had to really even try anybody out. It was just it was a really smooth
Joe Schmoes.
Yeah, it was really, really smooth transition. So it worked out great. And since Luke's been with the band, it's kind of given us even an extra inspiration, because where there was a little bit of conflict towards with the recording of Sect of Vile Divinity, with what Sonny wanted to do musically, what we wanted to do. So ended up now with Luke, he's more on the same page as us. So we've been extra motivated, and he's been coming up with amazing stuff too. It fits right into what we're doing, and it's so nice because he's been touring with us so much that he totally is able to fit in the pocket without any real,
Yeah, like pushing it.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was like such a smooth transition, and it works out great for everybody because we love Sonny and we love jamming with him. He's great, but there's nothing you could do if somebody wants to do something else musically than you want to do. It's not even fair to try to hold somebody back or keep them from doing it. It's like, no, go right ahead and do what you feel you need to do. I mean, I don't want to be the one to ever hold anyone's talent back.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. So, hell yeah. So you've been writing. I mean, like, so you've been writing.
Yeah.
Is this going to be something new, like a new album within the next?
Yeah, I mean, we're basically, I mean, who knows how long we're going to have off because of this outbreak and stuff. So, I mean, we're already at the demo stages of about, probably have about 5 songs where we actually did like, full demos of, and then we have about another 5 that we didn't quite demo yet. So there's a good chance that we could have another album done before the end of the year, but
wow,
I don't really know what Relapse's, I don't know if Relapse would necessarily want us to release another album without being able to tour it all for the last ones. So I'm not exactly sure, how we're going to do it, but I mean, for us, it's like, writing music is not like a timeline thing where we do it when we're inspired to do it, and if we're inspired now, then we'll just do it, and then if we have to wait a little bit for, say, what's the right time to do it as a marketing way or business way, that's fine, but we want to get the ideas and stuff down while they're still fresh and in a good way, because sometimes it's tough to go back. Like if you write a song and then you go back to it a year later, sometimes your headset's in a different place and you don't capture that same vibe that you had the first time around. I mean, that's happened to us numerous times because we have a habit of writing too much material for each album. I mean, the last 3 albums we did, we've had anywhere from 15 to 20 songs written before we went into the studio. And, it's just more or less just picking the songs that work well together, so, but sometimes when we if we go back to a song, because we didn't use it for the last one, we say, okay, let's try to rehab it. Sometimes it's weird to rehab the song because it's like the feeling that you had a year ago when it made sense with the song, you do it now and you play it and it's like, it kind of lost something, So
you're like covering it now.
yeah, exactly. It's like you're covering your own material. Yeah, that's exactly how it feels sometimes. So since we're like in the vibe of writing new songs, we'd rather just try to get it recorded and finalized this year. So even if it takes a year or a year and a half to come out, it's like people are going to hear us getting inspiration down as we're doing it instead of trying to cover ourselves when the business time is right to do it or whatever. Because the important thing I've learned throughout the years is that the business aspect of the music business, you can never let that stuff interfere with the writing of music and why you write music and how you do it.
Now off of that business topic, I'm curious. Does Relapse have any like restrictions that they put on you guys, like lyrically or musically?
No, they don't. They never gave us any restrictions. I mean, no, they've been really super cool and super easy going about everything. I mean, they give us pretty much free range as far as music style, anything we did. Yeah, no, I can't say they really, they never told me like, oh, you can't do this or that. I mean, yeah, any real, I've made mistakes in the past where I've, rushed to do an album after another album just because I thought it would be good timing to release an album, but I never, Relapse never made us, never said, "Oh, you got to get in the studio now" or anything like that. They just, whenever we're ready, we just contact them and they just say, "Okay," and they never like came back and said, "Oh, your lyrics are too fucked up" or whatever, or
Yeah.
pissing people off. I mean, I think they should know that our music's supposed to be made to piss people off, so it's kind of it's kind of par for the course for some extent.
Yeah. Now, I talked to Chris from Devourment, and I asked him that same question because obviously they've got some obscene imagery and lyrics. And the only thing that they said was they tried restricting them on saying the word fuck. And I was like, wow.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, out of all the things.
Huh. Yeah,
So,
I'm trying to think. I think I don't know. I don't know if I said fuck on this album, but I think I said fuck on Profane. I know I said I mean I've said fuck on albums before, so I don't, but yeah, I guess, well, maybe they might not wanted fuck to be on like their video song or something like that. But
right.
yeah, even if they told us not to do it, I don't think they would really. I mean, I would do it anyway, and if they didn't want to use that song for the video or something, then fine.
Right.
Because really, I mean, having a song censored because it's too obscene in this kind of music is only a positive anyway. More people are going to want to check it out.
Exactly.
I mean, that helped out Cannibal Corpse when they did Butchered at Birth. That cover got them so much, publicity. It was, they got some bad publicity from it, but at that time, it was like, a super big deal, and everyone knew Cannibal Corpse after that. So
Right. No,
yeah.
the funny thing is, like, every time Cannibal Corpse gets brought up, I'm like, dude, like, since this podcast started, I want to talk to freaking Corpse Grinder. That's like that's like one of my goals, dude.
Yeah,
So
he's a great dude. He definitely, when you do talk to him, he'll talk your ear off. He loves talking about metal and stuff. He's a great guy. I've known Corpse Grinder forever. He's actually not really part of the New Jersey scene, but we used to have a club outside of Philly called G Willikers. This was back in the early '90s, and it was far enough south where sometimes they get bands from Maryland, or be like Maryland bands sometimes play their Philly bands, and New Jersey, New York bands. It was all close enough to be able for all those bands to come up. So actually, George's first band, which was called Corpse Grinder, they used to come up and play up there sometimes. And he's always been a top-notch dude. I mean, I was super happy for him once I heard that he joined Cannibal Corpse. I was totally happy because I don't know. For me, it's like, anybody from my old crew does well, it's like you kind of feel like, it's a win for the old school metal team, and
right.
My
hometown is Buffalo. So
okay, yeah,
it makes it even better.
That's originally, Cannibal's original hometown. Yeah, actually, we, I remember back in the early '90s, Cannibal Corpse. It was Cannibal Corpse and Baphomet were up there. Were both bands that were two of the bigger bands, and they brought up us and the other band I was playing with at the time called Mortician. They'd bring up to there to play. Buffalo actually had a pretty good scene for a little while. It was Buffalo's a strange place because it's like it seems like it goes through phases where the scene could be really good for a while and then be terrible.
Yeah, it's like hit or miss.
Yeah.
So off of that, who should I talk to? This is my last question to you. Like, who's somebody really cool?
Oh, someone really cool to talk to? What, to do an interview with, I guess? Fuck. I don't know. I would.
Like somebody that's usually like open to do things like this, because a lot of like it's hit or miss. Either they're against it or they're all for it.
Well, I could say offhand, I would say. I would say maybe Jeff Becerra from Possessed. I mean, he likes doing this kind of stuff, and
Okay.
he'd be interesting to talk to. I mean, he's basically the person that coined the term death metal, so that would be a good one. I would say also another good choice would be maybe Alex, who plays with Immolation. He used to play with us in Incan a few years back. So, I mean, he'd be an interesting person to talk to. And I know he has a couple new side projects he's working on himself besides Immolation. So he'd be really into talking. So I'd say one of those two guys would be a great option.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, both of them I'll hit up.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Hell yeah. I appreciate your time, and it was a fun chat. I learned a lot. So,
well, thank you. I had a blast too. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I totally appreciate it.